An original podcast from podlatino.com.
A room with no windows, concrete walls, a hole in the ceiling where the light came through. That was the first thing employees at the Belvedere Hotel in Baltimore saw when they opened that room on May 16, 2006. It was not a guest room. It was an unused storage space on the 12th floor, a room no one had entered in weeks. The hole in the ceiling was roughly 4 feet across. It came from above, from the rooftop. And on the floor, among chunks of plaster and fragments of plastic, was the body of a man. The man's name was Rey Rivera. He was 32 years old, 6'5", around 220 pounds. He was a writer, an independent filmmaker, a husband, and a new father. He had disappeared 11 days earlier, on May 5th. His car was found parked a few blocks from the hotel, engine off, no signs of a struggle. His phone was off. No one had seen him leave his house, and yet there was his body. When his body was found, the first question was obvious. If someone falls from a rooftop, they land on the street, not inside a sealed room in a building. That was the question no investigation was ever able to answer conclusively, and that question is at the center of this story. Rey Rivera grew up in Los Angeles. He studied film, spent years working on independent projects, and in the mid-2000s moved to Baltimore with his wife Allison, who had taken a job at Agora Financial, one of the largest publishers of financial newsletters in the world, headquartered in that city. Agora's founder was Bill Bonner, a businessman Rivera had known for years. According to the family, the two shared a close friendship and a mentorship dynamic. Rivera did not formally work for the company, but he collaborated informally on certain projects. He was connected to the Agora world without being part of its internal structure. On May 5, 2006, Rivera was at home when he received a phone call around 6:30 in the evening. He left the house in a hurry without saying where he was going. He never came back. His car was found parked a short distance from the Belvedere Hotel, a 14-story historic building constructed in 1903 with a rooftop accessible from inside. There was no camera footage showing Rivera anywhere on the premises. There were no witnesses. In the days that followed, Allison organized volunteer searches, posted notices, and went to the police. The investigation moved slowly. Without a body, without a crime scene, without clear leads, there was very little to go on. 11 days later, a hotel employee noticed an unusual smell coming from a sealed room on the 12th floor. When they opened the door, they found Rey Rivera's body. The ceiling was damaged. Something had come through it from above. Investigators reconstructed the trajectory. The body had fallen from outside, most likely from the roof, and had broken through the membrane ceiling before hitting the floor of that room. What was harder to explain was the geometry of the impact. The horizontal distance between the edge of the rooftop and the point of impact was significant. For the body to have reached that specific location, it would have needed to travel outward with horizontal force. A passive fall or even a forward fall from the edge would not have produced that trajectory. That opened two possibilities: that Rivera had run and jumped with enough momentum, or that someone had thrown him. Neither was ruled out. Neither was confirmed. The scene had not preserved useful physical evidence, and the time that had passed made it impossible to recover certain types of trace material. The medical examiner classified the cause of death as multiple traumatic injuries consistent with a high-velocity fall from height. The manner of death was classified as undetermined, which in forensic terms means it could not be established with certainty whether the death was a suicide, a homicide, or an accident. On the rooftop of the Belvedere, investigators found his glasses. That was all. Near the body, there was a broken cell phone, and a fragment of paper with cryptic writing had been found taped to the wall of the couple's bedroom, discovered by Allison during the days of the search. It was a list of names, quotes, references to films, numbers, phrases with no apparent connection. Some interpreted it as a note left before a suicide. Allison Rivera rejected that theory from the beginning. She said her husband had no reason to do something like that he was excited about the life they were building together, that the imminent birth of their first child filled him with energy. The Baltimore Police Department investigated for months. They interviewed people connected to Agora, including Bill Bonner, who did not provide information that pointed the investigation in any clear direction. No documented threats were found, no serious deaths, no violent conflicts, no identifiable suspects. The case was closed without resolution. In 2021, Netflix featured the case in the relaunched series Unsolved Mysteries. Thousands of people analyzed every detail in online forums, ran calculations on the trajectory, and tried to decode the note. None of that collective effort produced new verifiable evidence, but it did expose just how many gaps existed in the official record. What is known is this: a 32-year-old man left his house on a May afternoon, left his car near a hotel, and 11 days later his body was found inside a sealed room with the ceiling broken in from above. The cause of death was traumatic injury from a fall. The manner of death, undetermined. What is not known is almost everything else: how he got to the hotel, why he went there, who made the call that brought him out of his house, whether he jumped, whether he fell, whether someone threw him. What that note actually said in full, the complete case file has never been made public, and in cases like this, the gap between what authorities failed to find and what they chose not to share is part of the problem. The case remains open, the room was repaired, the hotel is still standing, and Rey Rivera still has no explanation,